Perfect.
Perfect.
So yeah, I've just got some general questions. I was kind of thinking, time wise, like maybe taking 20 minutes of your time. Um,
As much as can be helpful, buddy.
awesome. Yeah, again, thank you. Thank you. So I guess, yeah, I just wanted to start out by asking you just kind of what your general career journeys look like.
Mhm.
I mean, how did you get started in real estate first off? Was it like kind of an initial interest coming out of high school or college? Um, and then uh, what's your kind of current role at Commercial Integrity?
Yeah. So I went to school 2013 to 2017. I went to Arizona State University, got a degree in economics. While I was there, I was part of a fraternity. One of my fraternity brothers, his dad ran a real estate development company in LA, where I'm originally from. So he and I were talking. He encouraged me to try to intern for his dad, which I did. So I interned for 2 summers with his dad, where he and I were, working side by side. And so after I graduated in 2017, I went to work there full time. First starting as a business development associate and then moving on to director of business development. So the company was a small family shop and it was development in the form of public-private partnerships. So our projects were mostly based on going to cities that had excess land and saying, what do you need? Do you need apartments? Do you need retail? Do you need hotels? Do you need restaurants? And then working with the cities to try and make those projects happen with our, expertise and their land and some, playful financing between everybody. Um, so I did that for 3 years. I tried to do a little bit of leasing for them. I got my
And that
license.
was and that was right out of college, is that correct?
Yeah. That was right out of college. I started working there when I was 20.
Okay.
So I worked there. Also, feel free to interject any questions at any point. Um, 2020, COVID hits. Everyone in the company is immediately laid off. The company totally loses all of its financing for everything. So pretty instantaneously, it was like April of 2020. There was one Zoom call with everyone in the company. And they were like, "All right, you've all received your last check." So I am laid up at home, just getting unemployment, getting stimulus checks, watching TV. It wasn't the worst life at that point in my life, honestly.
Right.
And so I had already thought about I was already applying to grad schools before COVID hit because I just wanted the option. So I got into Portland State and NYU's MRED program. And when COVID hit, it was like, all right, this is perfect. Like, this is the time to do it. Let's make the most out of COVID. I worked a few jobs here and there during COVID, just kind of remote jobs that never really were quite a great fit for me. I worked for a micro lender. I worked for PSU actually as a writer for our business journal, I think.
Okay.
Um, so went to school remote for a year. Lived at home with my parents, saved up, um, moved up here. The timeline always gets so confusing for me. I think I moved up here, I think, this summer of 21. And yeah, summer of 21, I moved up here, finished off my degree. Took me 6 months by the time I got up here to finish the classes in person. I started a job as soon as I got up here. I actually think I did not. I got the job at CBRE like right after I moved up here. I'd had the conversations remote first to start talking to them, but I got the job confirmed when I moved up here in 2021. So I worked at CBRE's debt and structured finance team, which is just their brokerage, their debt brokerage. So we were a debt brokerage. A lot of our deals were multifamily. It was just getting helping, buyers and owners debt on
Do you mind
purchases.
explaining like what exactly that is? Like so like a debt brokerage, like is like
Yeah.
do like are people coming like other businesses coming to you, I guess?
Yeah. So good question. So a debt brokerage is simply that there is a person who owns real estate that needs to get a refinance loan, or there's somebody who's going to buy real estate who needs to get a loan in order to get the property. And so just like you reach out to a sales broker to help get you a deal, you reach out to a debt broker to help you get the loan. So a lot of people can just go through themselves because they have a relationship with a certain lender, or they can just do that on their own. But a lot of owners and buyers don't want to go through the pain, and they don't know who the best lenders are, and so they'll go to us, and we'll take a commission on the debt, and we will go out there, we'll put a pitch deck together for your deal, we'll underwrite the deal for you, and we will send it out to a whole host of lenders. So lenders across different types of lenders. There's agencies, so like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. There's banks that lend for this. There's credit unions. There's life insurance companies who do lending on real estate. So we send the pitch out to a bunch of different lenders. We answer their questions about the deal, and then we present different loan options to buyers and owners and say, okay, we got 4 lenders who are willing to do the deal. Here's the lowest interest rate. Here's the most amount of interest only period that you can have on this. And then we help with the whole closing process. Again, just like a sales broker would do. The lender needs to do an inspection. The lender needs to get a bunch of due diligence paperwork. We are the ones who would receive it and organize it and make sure the closing goes smoothly. So similar in essence to a sales broker of like putting together marketing material, doing the underwriting, presenting it to potential buyers or lenders, but just kind of a different need and different thing that you're promoting.
Sure. And then is that mostly, and maybe you already mentioned it and I missed it, but is that mostly like commercial entities, like not so much like private citizens who have like, say, a multifamily property or something?
Yeah. So most of our loans, I would say at that point were, I think the low end was $5 million on those loans,
Oh,
but I think
wow.
some
Okay.
were over 10. I think the biggest one that I was a part of was maybe 47 million. Um,
Wow.
I was part of the team that closed the LL Hawkins building that's over in Slabtown. And that was with the shopping center that's connected to it. So yeah, we did different size loans, but yeah, we did a lot of institutional size. So the people who own them or the people who were about to buy the properties weren't really like private clients. They were more like groups of people who were buying this, companies, also life insurance companies who were buying real estate. So we did a lot of institutional work. Institutional basically just meaning big. That's all institutional really means in this sense. Like if I'm a sales broker, which I am, if I'm doing institutional deals, that just means big. It just means like,
Such as like BlackRock, that kind of thing.
correct. Yeah. BlackRock is, yeah, exactly. So like, I think in real estate, I probably call anything that's over 80 units institutional, or maybe 100 units institutional. So, institutional just means big.
What
And
is what is the advantage to these life insurance companies buying real estate? Is it just to widen their portfolio for the company?
um, well, when you say advantage, do you mean like why are they buying real estate?
Yeah, like what's the benefit, I guess, for them?
Like any kind of insurance company that has to put their money somewhere. So uh, like a pension as well. Like there's life insurance companies, so everyone's putting their money into life insurance, and they have to invest the money to make it grow. They just have a lot of money to deploy, and the
Mm.
kinds of when you have that much money to put out there, you have to diversify. You can't just put it into like stocks and bonds. That's obviously going to be part of their holdings. But you need a diverse, portfolio that's going to include real estate, especially institutional size real estate, which should be like relatively stable as far as your 10-year returns go.
And I'm assuming that's not super problematic for them because they don't need a huge, like they already, I'm assuming already have a huge amount of liquid, just in case something happened that they could pay out, whomever.
Yeah, I mean they still need debt. They can't. It's not like these guys are like buying things cash. BlackRock is a little bit different. When I'm talking about life cos and pension funds, those are groups that happen to have money that needs to be invested, versus BlackRock, which is specifically a hedge fund that strategizes around real estate holdings. But yeah, I mean they've got tons of money. They've got a lot of leverage. I mean, they're very good at getting debt as well. They're very qualified. So lenders look at them very favorably and will offer them very good terms. And there's a whole host of reasons why even if you could buy cash, you probably shouldn't. Because debt is really good. It helps your cash on cash returns. And if the money that you're investing is appreciating at a rate that is higher than how much the debt is eating out of the amount of debt you have, you should still do it. So like if your interest rate is at like 4% and your annual cash on cash return is at 5%, you're doing well, because the equity that you have is appreciating more than the debt is costing you.
So you're basically getting like 1% on top of, like, for that example.
Yeah. I mean, that's there's probably I could break the math out into much
But
bigger
just
things.
generalizing.
Yeah, exactly. So all that matters is that you're making more money than it's costing you.
Got it. Okay. And as
Yeah.
far as like, if you had to put it in a percentage, would you say that they, like, I mean, for instance, life insurance,
Yeah.
do you think their holdings for real estate are like something in like 20%, 30%?
Of their entire portfolio.
Yeah, correct.
To be totally honest, that's not the side I saw of it. I didn't deal with what their holdings were. I just dealt with the single kind of investments that they wanted to buy. Um, just to guess, I mean, it depends on the strategy of how aggressive that the insurance company wants to be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 25%.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as compensation works, at this point in time, were you getting paid like a salary, or was there a flat fee when you were closing these deals?
Yeah. So I was an analyst on the team, so I wasn't the broker. And so my structure was I was earning a salary plus a commission. I'll just tell you, I was making 60,000 a year at that time, and that's in 2021. And I was making 1% of our commissions that we brought in. And so
Hmm.
on aggregate at that point in my life, it was pretty much equating to 80,000 a year take home, because I probably took home about 20,000 a year in those commissions. Um,
Got it.
and yeah, so that's probably what I was doing at that point. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then as far as like, if say that you guys had like a bad year, where like was 60,000 like your absolute base? Like, so like worst case scenario,
Yeah,
you're
no,
at minimum.
I couldn't make less than 60,000 at that time.
Got it. Okay, nice. And then you kind of mentioned it earlier in terms of you when you were in college, you kind of talked to, I think, your one of your dad's friend or your friend's dad or
Yeah.
something. Um, Going kind of back to that,
Yeah.
would you say there was any pivotal moment inside your kind of trajectory in real estate that you kind of thought like, wow, like this is it, like this is.
Well, I'll tell you what I skipped over in that story, which is that when I went to my friend's dad, I went to my friend. We were talking about what we were going to do over the summer, and I said I was looking for an internship. And what I was looking for at the time was an internship, because I thought at the time I wanted to go into pre-law. And so I told him that I was interested in looking into companies that do like free legal assistance for people who couldn't afford it. And so he goes, oh, well, my dad does something kind of similar. You should talk to him. And it turns out he did nothing similar at all. It was totally unrelated. I was 19 at the time.
Okay.
And so we basically managed to have an interview over the phone throughout the entire time. And at the end of the interview, I like got the internship and still did not know what I had signed up for. And so I went back to LA for my summer vacation, got to the office, looked around, and I went, "Oh, this is real estate. Okay, this is not law." And then I just went, "Okay, well, I got nothing else going on, so sure." Um,
Right,
so
right.
so then I just started doing real estate. It's a very silly way that I got introduced to it.
Sure.
A pivotal point that I realized I wanted to do this. Um, I don't know. I mean, listen, I'll be totally honest. Like, uh, I, probably at that time, like, I'm like a 19-year-old kid, and I was still just kind of figuring, and I was just dead broke all the time. I was a college student, and I was like working two jobs while I went to school. I was a debate coach at a local high school, and I was a delivery driver for Jimmy John's. And
Sure.
so, I mean, that's what I was doing while I was going to school full time at ASU. And then, I'd come home for the summer. I work in these things, and we would like, you know, go to these like really nice dinners, and we would go to like Vegas every year for ICSC, and they would put us up in suites, and we go to baseball games, really good seats. Like, I think at that time I just thought, well, if I'm gonna try something, I might as well try something that's gonna give me like stability. It was never to like, be rich or anything. It was just to like, what can I do to justify these student loans I'm taking out?
Sure, sure.
And I truly was just unguided at that age. I mean, I think a lot of people are for good reason. A lot of like, I think college kids should be kind of open to everything and like not be afraid to do what I did, which is just kind of like jump into something and be like, okay, I'm just gonna see if this works. Because I had no reference, I had no idea. You know, I wanted to be a lawyer because I enjoyed watching Law and Order. Like that's I had no frame of reference, truly. So
Right.
yeah, I think at that point in my life, it was just that you know, we were like meeting with like mayors and like city managers and council people, and you like kind of saw things being created, and I saw the ability for like a real estate project to create such a massive difference in an area. Like we emphasize projects that were public private or sorry transit oriented developments. So we were like building around train stations to expand the ability for people to go from their homes to their work without needing a car, and also building housing that like underneath it had like daycares and groceries and things that like people need, that would provide options to them that they don't have to drive for, because some people can't afford cars, some people can't continue affording gas, and getting cars off the road would be great for both the environment and just to like lower traffic for everybody. And so it's all these things where it's like I saw an apartment building before this and I was like, it's just a building. But then once I started to really look into it, I was like, oh, it's everything. Like apartment buildings, housing is everything. This is the start of the chain for everything else. It's the first thing you need in your like the diagram, the triangle of the hierarchy of needs. Is like housing is really, really early. And from there, everything else is decided. Um, so I just realized what kind of impact just one thing can make, and how like housing is not just a roof. It is the like how does like a society get created? How do we create people being able to move easily from one thing that they need to another thing that they need? And how do we make big changes happening all just by putting a bunch of wood that is set up in the right location? Like just take a bunch of wood, make apartments. That changes a whole lot just by putting hammer and nail in right location.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. And like anecdotally, like I started off kind of thinking like I wanted to be an architect.
Sure.
And like I watch shows like I mean it's so lame, but like How I Met Your Mother, where like
I
the main character is an
I
architect.
literally was just watching How I Met Your Mother on my lunch break.
Oh, really?
I love that
Nice.
show. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me too. And like I started out
was
watching that, and like I was like, oh, he's an architect, and he's his dreams to design like a
yeah.
skyscraper, and I thought that was so cool. And then I started learning about architecture school and just the career in itself, and it seemed very much like a passion job to me. Like you
Totally.
have to be very much into it, and like kind of the design aspect and the arts. And I'm just not really kind of that's not how my mind works, I guess. Like I've never been like great at drawing, or like I'm always like, obsessed with like architecture in that way. And so I like the idea of kind of like what you said, where kind of being at ground zero of like how a city, even shapes itself, with housing, for example. And being kind of like oriented with working with like city officials and the developers and kind of really like the ground zero. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, do you mind explaining kind of like what your current role is and what your company kind of specializes in currently?
Yeah. Uh, Commercial Integrity. We are a brokerage that has been around for about 10 years, I believe. We are located in Northwest Portland, right here on 17th and Gleason. The company was started by Justin Poor, our founder, who was
Mhm.
originally a top selling broker at Marcus and Millichap for many years. And he moved over here to kind of implement what he saw as an improvement on the kind of archetype of typical big house brokerages, which is kind of expanding how the different brokers can be cooperative and help each other do deals and kind of be open about our information. So it was primarily started as a retail brokerage, which is what Justin is, and our head of leasing, Brad McCumber, he is a retail leasing broker. I joined in October of 2023. Originally, I got here just to run operations because I just needed a salary. But I got my license pretty quickly thereafter. And then Ben Murphy joined us, who has been a multifamily broker for about 8 years, 9 years. And he came here with about $500 million worth of transactions. and he wanted to establish a multifamily arm in the company. And so I jumped into that with him. So he and I are the multifamily team here. It's just he and I doing multifamily. So I'm a broker, which means that my primary responsibility is to cold call and locate property owners who want to sell their property, and help them if they choose to utilize a listing with me to put their property on the market and find them a buyer. And so day to day, it is cold calling, finding someone with a property who'd be willing to take a look at what a valuation would be. I underwrite the property myself. Our marketing team and I create the package for the property, highlighting what we would, highlight to a buyer.
Do you mind explaining what underwriting means again?
Yeah, sure. Underwriting is just taking a look at the rents and the expenses of a property and creating a what a value it would be, like what it would probably be worth. I don't know if you want to, I can just run you through like what underwriting looks like on my end. But
yeah, sure. That'd be awesome, actually.
Yeah, I think that's probably what you guys are going to be working on anytime now. Let me just pull up a good pro forma that I've been working on.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I underwrite, that's like my main thing. I'm that's something I've become good at.
Sure.
Let's see. Let's do a deal that we've already done. 1 second.
No, yeah, you're good. Take your time.
All right, let's just do Tualatin. Okay. How do share? Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I
can also just describe it if we can't figure out how to let me screen share.
Now try it.
Okay. There we go.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, you can see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So nothing too confusing here. So this is what the kind of summary of the pro forma looks like, which is I have a property here. What is it worth? The answer to the question at the end is like right here. This is generally speaking what we find that this property is worth. But the question is, how do we figure that out? And so the two parts that you need are a rent roll, which just shows all the rents for the property for each unit, tells me what's the rent, what's the square footage, so I can figure that out. And then what are the expenses? So like, what are they spending each month in this thing? What are they spending each month in the utilities? What is their repair and maintenance? What is their insurance cost? So we take all that and I get a net operating income. So I have my income right here. It just tells me what the apartment is like making in gross income. And that's between like the different forms of income that they have, because they'll have the rent money, but they'll also have miscellaneous money that they get. And that's like late fees or cleaning fees or, various other like small things that properties get. And then RUBS are utility reimbursements. So when you're in an apartment, and if your apartment does this where they charge you rent, but then every month they also charge you a certain amount for your utility bill, that means that the apartment pays for the utilities, but then you pay them back. So that gives me kind of the gross income. And then I look into it and I say, okay, here's what they're paying in taxes. Here's what they're paying in insurance. Here's what they're paying in property management. Here's what they're paying in all this different stuff. And then it spits me out like, okay, here's my income. Here's my expenses. Boom. Here's my net operating income. And so from your net operating income, you get a cap rate, which is basically just like a number. And you say like it is a 6.3 cap rate. So basically like, you take the NOI, you divide it by a cap rate, and that's how you get the price. So the price is $1,975,000. And that's because we took this net operating income and you divided it by a cap rate. So before I go into like what a cap rate, have you gone over cap rate?
We kind of just started it, but I'd appreciate it if you kind of explained it.
Yeah, no worries. So cap rate, well, let me go over one thing first before I go to cap rate. The part about underwriting is it's not just like here's what the expense for landscaping is because here's what the landlord paid. You're taking a look at what the current ownership paid, but then you're also saying, okay, is this normal? Is this an average expense or is this unusually high? If it's unusually high, we would say, okay, well, the next owner, we can expect them to be able to get that expense a little bit down. And so sometimes there's like a lot of repairs and maintenance that have been done, but the fact that the landlord already did all those things is like, great. Well, once the new landlord comes in, those things have already been taken care of. So we're going to push that a little bit down. We feel like you're not so much going to have to spend a whole bunch of money on repairs anymore because the landlord already did. Or if there's like a ton of landscaping, we would say, okay, well, are you guys like, having do you guys need a new landscaping person? Should, a new owner come in and get a different contract? So there's a bunch of different reasons why you would take a look at an expense and not just say, okay, here's what it is. You would take a look at it and say, okay, I think we should push this a little bit because, this isn't kind of what it normally should be. And so you kind of normalize these expenses on some of them. You can't normalize like utilities because they are what they are. But again, if it's like repairs and maintenance and they're super high, you would normalize it and say, we're going to estimate that it's going to be lower. And then you kind of take a check of a few things to make sure that your numbers are kind of normal. You're going to learn all about this, so it's totally fine if this is somewhat over your head.
Sure.
But you would want to see like an expense ratio, which means what is your expenses divided by your income. So like 35 to 45% means you're probably in the right range. That's like a pretty expected expense ratio. If it's too low, you have to look back and say like, okay, am I undercounting things? Are there things that are going to get more expensive once we take this back out to market because the new owner would have to pay more? And if your expenses are too high, like they're at like, 50%, then you'd be like, okay, the current landlord's paying too much for something, either they're mishandling something or, there's just a problem that they had to solve, but we're going to lower it because we don't expect the new owner to have to deal with this. Then you also look at what your expenses are per month or per unit per year. So about $7,000. That's pretty much about where you want to be. If it's too high, if it's too low, you realize there's something funky going on with the expenses.
As far as the aggregates go for like for instance, like the landscaping or
Yeah.
electric or whatever, how do you know if they're paying too much? Like, what are you comparing that to?
We just have done enough underwriting that we have a sense of where it should be in the market.
Got it. Okay.
I can tell you that a rule of thumb is that your turnover should be about 250 a unit. Reserves should be, it depends on how nice the unit are, but for older properties, like what we're dealing with right here with the 1978 building, it's going to be about 250. Advertising, you should only pay about 100. It's truly just the rule of thumb in this area, just because we've done so many of these and we know kind of where they should be.
Got it. Okay. And just to make sure I'm kind of understanding this correctly, and please correct me. So basically you're underwriting a property, and are you kind of, in my eyes, like kind of like a middleman for like one company that comes to you and says, hey, we want to buy this apartment building. And then you kind of underwrite for them and tell them, well, this is what it's worth. These are what like you kind of break it down and
Yeah.
kind of give them a better idea of like, well, should we actually buy this or not? Is that kind of
Um, Opposite order.
okay?
Correct, but the other way around. I go to the owner and I say to them, they say to me, how much could I sell this for? And so
Okay.
I put all those numbers together and I say, you could probably sell it for between this and this. And here's why. Here's how much your rents are. Here's how much your expenses probably should be. And then here's the cap rate. And that you're probably going to get sold for this. Now, then, yes, the buyer comes along and that's when I'm saying to them, yeah, here's what I think this is worth. I represent the seller. So you offer whatever you want. But here's how I'm saying this is probably what it's going to be worth.
Got it.
And then the cap rate, honestly, like I don't want to go too into this because you're just going to learn it and it's going to be confusing.
Sure.
Julia will explain it much better than I can, but basically, like, again, it's just a rule of thumb in an area. So I have an NOI, right? I have a net operating income. This property nets me $200,000 a year. How do I figure out a price? I don't know. All I know is the income it makes, but I need to know a price. Well, just start with one thing, 5% cap rate. right? I don't know. Just throw out 5%. 5% is pretty standard, right? Divided by 5%, that gets you the value. Look at that value. Does that value seem right? Well, you look at comps, right? What does that get me per unit? What does that get me per foot? Is that about realistic? If that's not realistic, change your cap rate. Cap rate is just a tool that we use to measure your return. And now I'm getting too into the weeds here, and I don't want to like give you a little bit of something that Julie's going to explain
Sure.
much better. You'll get all of it eventually, but that's what I'm dealing with.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we've got about like, I don't know, a couple more minutes here. And so I've got maybe like two more questions. Um, one of the questions is in terms of do you have any suggestions as somebody, I mean, obviously I'm in the master's program, I'm kind of learning about all this stuff. Outside of that, do you have any other outside resources or things or even books that kind of helped you learn more about real estate in general?
Um, as much as I learned in the PSU program, I learned 50-fold by working.
Yeah.
Um, I like all the underwriting stuff. I just learned because I worked at CBRE and I had a great senior analyst who helped me with everything. So honestly, like learn by doing.
Sure.
Um, get a part-time internship if you want while you're going to school, and then apply for jobs when you have a break. If you want to come by and talk to my guys here about doing an internship, you're more than welcome to. But honestly, it's just by doing. Also talk to people. There's like a mentorship program at PSU. Do they still do that?
Yes, they do. Yeah, I'm
You
actually
want a
enrolled in that
mentor?
right now. Uh,
Do it. Yeah, that's how I got connected to people. Just talk to people. Honestly, like it's not a weird thing if you just looked up a company, right? If you were like, I know that, JLL is a big brokerage. I know that Killian Pacific is a really big developer here. Just look at their website and find a person and email them and say, can you're in an industry, I'm just growing. Here's who I am. Can I please just meet you for coffee and talk to you for 15 minutes? Can I just ask you some questions? I guarantee you, if they can, they will, because that's what people enjoy doing in this industry. If you worked in like tech or, private equity, I think it'd be a lot different. But real estate is an industry that everyone likes talking and everyone like is incentivized to meet with people. So honestly, like just start talking to people, talk to people in your class, talk to people who are like specialized in stuff that you don't know anything about. Because it's like the best way to learn other perspectives than yours. But yeah, just start applying to jobs, start, trying to do work here and there. And just try and like once you get into those situations, then start shaking more hands there. Shake hands with like an office, shake hands with like, if you have like a buddy you go to get a beer with, ask where he works and, see if he can bring his people over, just meet people.
yeah, yeah, and then you actually kind of answered basically my second question, and maybe you feel free to add to it a little bit more. But I was going to ask, kind of because I consider myself a little bit more of an introverted guy, and so kind of like the networking and meeting with people has been kind of like a completely new concept, and I understand
Yeah.
like throughout any basically professional career, it's like you kind of have to like
Yep.
put yourself out there and meet people, and so in
Yeah.
terms of like networking, do you have any other suggestions? Maybe events or and kind of reaching out to companies, like you said, that's a
Yeah.
great idea,
Start with the school. PSU does a ton of networking events. Go to everything. I don't like going to that stuff. I totally get it. I mean, fake it. Just fake it. Just like
Yeah,
go to some of these things and have like a character, and you're like, oh, I just watched an episode of Suits, and I'm gonna act like that. Um,
right.
yeah, just start doing that. Professional networking events. I don't know. I mean, there's like different groups. You can join NAOP. You can go to like an ICSC event, but those things are kind of expensive, honestly. Um, I would just say like, socialize with the people in your cohort, leverage the school to get you some events, and then just start like again, do informational interviews and you meet people from there. Cause you're gonna like sit down for coffee with like a broker and they're gonna be like, you know what, you should go talk to so and so. Cause they worked here for a while and they're young and they, learned a lot. So you should go talk to this person. And then that person's gonna tell you to go talk to this person. Like just start getting coffee with people.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then do you, and one last question, do you find any differences between, because I know you briefly worked down in Southern California. Do you think it's like super pivotal to stay in one area, in like such as Portland, or do you think, you could like, for example, move back down to Southern California and have a pretty great career?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're kind of hitting something important about real estate, which is that every time you move, it's a reset button. Your network is everything in real estate, and also your market expertise. It's taken me a while to fully understand, what are sales like in St. John's versus Southeast. The nuances of that stuff is kind of what you have to know. Because if you're calling people and they're like, oh, yeah, you called me on this property, but I've actually got this property over in Northeast Salem. Can you tell me what's happening in that market? And I have to kind of know what's going on. So yeah, if you move, it is a reset button. Now we're both young enough to like do it. You're totally fine to do it. But honestly, the advice I've given myself is like, you better have like a damn good reason if you're going to move. I'm at a point in my career where it's like, I'm not going to move just because I think it's like fun and like, oh, I've always wanted
Right.
to see, Billings, Montana. I'm sure it's awesome, but like, if I'm going to move, it's got to be because I have like an amazing career opportunity that I cannot pass up. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, the people who do really well, the people who are like, I've been in Portland for 50 years and I know everything about it. I remember like before Big Pink was here. I mean, I don't know, whatever. Um,
Right.
so yeah, that's not to say you can't move, but you are incentivized to stay put.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And
Yeah,
I totally
absolutely.
forgot to ask, what is your work-life balance, just quickly? I mean, do you enjoy it? Is it good?
I've got a pretty good balance. I'm in the office at 7:45 every morning, but I'm out by like 5. Just because like, I get up early anyway, so there's not much. If I'm going to spend some excess time in the office, might as well be in the early part because I want to get home. Um, I think that people who put in like 14-hour days, 12-hour days every single day, I just don't know how useful that is, to be honest. I'm sure in some areas it is, but like as a broker, it's like people answer calls during work hours anyways.
Right.
So you're not gaining much by like being here an extra 6 hours around it so you can like make a call list. I just don't really see it. Um, I think that um, you know, there's kind of a historic culture about pushing yourself as hard as you can. And the Bill Gateses of the world don't have a work-life balance, and so if you want to make it big, you have to throw that out. I don't know if I buy it, honestly. I think also with the expansive amount of work that can be done remote or just more efficiently with technology, I don't really think that's a thing anymore. So I think that people should prioritize their work-life balance. Mine is fine. I spend a lot of time thinking about work when I'm out of work. That I wish I didn't do as much. And brokerage is a weird job. It's a tough lifestyle. It's not a classic job at all. But I try to prioritize it. I have a girlfriend and a dog, and I appreciate both of them. And I like going out with my friends. I try to see some amount of friends every week. And I think it's totally pop going home for the whole week of Thanksgiving. And so I think it's definitely possible for you to be. I don't believe in the idea that you can't be super successful unless you totally throw out your work-life balance. But also it comes down to prioritizing what time you do use well. I don't watch as many movies as I used to do. I don't get to play my piano as much as I used to. Some stuff I have to prioritize, but also like we're all humans. And also there's something in the air in the last few years of like, it's, being uh upper 20s, high 20s, late 20s, early 30s is like hard. It's like hard. It's tough to get by nowadays, honestly. We've all got debt or, bills and, but the world is getting bigger. So I just think that people should take care of themselves and, prioritize themselves.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that and kind of hearing about that aspect. Because it's like, like unless you're like in investment banking or something where I've heard, it's not odd to spend 100 hours, working or something, 80 to 100 hours a week. It's like, yeah, it's prioritizing what's important in your life, seeing your friends, family, whatever. So yeah, that's nice. Um, Well, thank you very much for meeting with me, Rick.
Yeah,
Seriously,
man.
being flexible and kind of explaining
Fun.
things, and that helps big time because I didn't really know much about underwriting, obviously. It's pretty interesting. Um,
You still don't. I didn't explain it very well, but it's hard to not. It's hard to explain quickly, but you'll get a very good grasp of it when you go over it in the program.
yeah, I think we're doing it, I want to say in real estate finance
Yeah,
one
yeah,
with this next coming term. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I've kind of heard some stuff from Julia, but um, yeah, I did want to ask, would you ever be open to me shadowing you at some point in the
Totally.
future? Okay.
Yeah. Anytime.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Because I may shoot you an email and kind of when I look at my schedule, maybe we could set something up in the near future because I would like to kind of learn more about, in person, obviously, and kind of see what you do day to day and
Totally.
everything like that.
You name the
Um,
day.
perfect. Well, thank you again, Rick. Again, really appreciate it. And I hope to talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Sounds good.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
See you, man. You too.